It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here.
With Barnet Bain. Good moment, everyone. Pleasure to be here and pleasure to have you listening again. Always a shock.
Always a shock that people are listening.
I never take it for granted.
No, of course not. We're
always a shock.
Grateful.
Busy. Where have you been? Last I spoke, you were on your way to prison.
I was on my way to prison. I was on my way to a juvenile detention center.
Yeah, Juvie Hall. It's good that you're out.
It's good that I'm out. Yeah.
By the way, there's still some litter by the side of the road that you didn't manage to.
Didn't get.
I'm just saying.
It was the orange jumpsuit. It didn't look good on me. No, it was good. I was last night. I went and did some work with some young men in prison. I was with this amazing nun, Sister Pat Cromer, and I'll tell you what struck me.
Yep.
So
you were nun-struck.
I was nun-struck. You remember that Doobie Brothers song, She's Got Lovin' Eyes?
No.
I won't sing it for you because I can't sing. But
Spence can sing it.
Right, Spence could probably play it for us.
Do you know that song? Okay. Awesome. Great.
He knows it. So we're working with these kids, and Sister Pat doesn't say a lot, but she's got these eyes, and she also holds their hand. She's probably 78 years old, and she's just incredibly sweet.
I love her.
Yeah. So look, there's a couple things I took away. The healing that she does is the loving on these kids. And we were talking with these kids, and she chimes in, and it feels almost nonlinear. She's not really, I kept wondering, is she tracking the conversation? And then at the end, she prays with these kids, and oh my God, she goes into a trance, and she's so crystal clear. She gives them everything they need. It's really masterful. It's remarkable to watch her work. So I was really blown away. I was just in awe. And so when I go back, and I plan to, I said I'd commit once a month and do this again, as long as I'm teamed up with her, because I want to be in that presence. How she gets so incredibly present, and she's so clear on, I want to say what she's doing, but I realize it's more of who she's being or what she's, committed to or something along those lines in terms of how she serves these guys. It's really remarkable to watch.
There is a friend of this program, Sister Judy Colley. She's part of a very, very large organization of American nuns. This sisterhood is responsible for running many of the largest hospitals in our cities and schools, and they do the service of knitting together the threads of community, of creating a space of making people feel visible, seen, known, held. And they're in a bit of a crisis right now because the Vatican feels that they are a movement unto themselves. And in many ways they are. They refer to themselves as literally the body of Christ, not the head.
Not the head. That is great.
And
oh my goodness.
There is something about Sister Judy Colley that I hear echoed in your story here. She embodies a being state.
Yeah.
It's who she is. It is not about the techniques, the skills, the practices by which she bootstrapped herself into a life of service. There comes a point in which the steps of getting there become the qualities of being there, and then you enter a field of love. It's a being state.
Totally.
And very, very, the same kinds of of chopping wood, etc., that happen in a being state of struggle and how can I fix this, and however well intended, does not have the same impact as those kinds of actions that are taken struggle-free inside a more empowered, a more loving, a more self-aware being state. And I think that was what was referred to when Jesus said, in reference to the Ten Commandments of the injunctions of the Old Testament, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, thou shalt not do all of that was developmentally appropriate for a human animal becoming human being. They're like training wheels in order to developmentally create a certain sense of order. Let's not drive off onto the soft shoulder. We don't kill each other. We don't, there are certain practices that will enable us to, in course of the practice, will enable us to reach a being state. And in that becomes a field. And then Jesus went on to say, we were at a point, at least who am I to quibble? He certainly perceived that we were at a point 2,000 years ago that all of those developmental techniques, steps for getting there, could be superseded by one law, which is now that we're sufficiently aware of the training wheels, we can take them off and just rely on love, on being love. So these are being states of love.
I love it. I love your line about the body of Christ. We can now be the body of Christ, not just the head.
Not the head trip of Christ.
All right, listen, let's bring our guest on, because who knows?
Look what we have here. We have gifts.
Oh, well, the swag. Yeah.
Look at this. I'm holding this up to camera. This is the genuine imitation leather-bound coffee KVTA News Talk coffee mug with the top that just broke off. No, it didn't break off. And the care.
He's so enamored with his new toys.
I'm so thrilled.
All right, so our guest will get one of these fantastic mugs. See, now if our guest had come in studio, she could actually have that to be with.
Well, this is an incentive.
Yeah, next time.
So that I could possibly meet her somewhere. We'll pull over by the side of the road, and I will hand off the leatherette coffee mug.
If I had only known.
Who do we got, Barnett? She's already with us.
If only I had known in advance. I have to say, I'm really excited. I was wondering, well, how am I going to introduce Alison? And I thought I'm going to introduce Alison as my friend. I love her. And she is one of the few people on the planet that understands why I throw my socks in the corner, waiting for some phantom to pick them up, like they're going to magically disappear. Alison Armstrong is the CEO and co-founder of PAX Programs. She's the creator of Celebrating Men and Satisfying Women. We should take that.
I've heard great things. So many of our friends.
On the Satisfying Women part?
The whole thing.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. I'll get both courses, A and B. I need them both.
She's the author of Making Sense of Men, A Woman's Guide to a Lifetime of Love, Care, and Attention from All Men. And she's the most wonderful and fun person.
And she's here with us today.
And she's here, well, she's
Alison,
not exactly
welcome
in studio.
to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it so far.
So far, so good, right?
Yeah, even without the mug.
Well, wait till you see this
it's
mug.
Up
that's
for the camera.
That's a killer mug. We have like 3 cameras in the studio.
Yep.
But only one mug.
We'll have to order more mugs.
So, Alison, we sort of noodled around this, looking for a subject, and this idea that men and women, that humans across the board, are bootstrapping themselves as well as being bootstrapped by the more of us into more and more expanded relationship with who we really are and can be to ourselves, to each other. It has developmental nuances for men and for women, and we would love you to weigh in on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you picked just a narrow topic.
Yes, we like it. We like it really.
Well, I'll even set this up a little further. So
Okay.
one of the things that Barnett brought up prior to 2,000 years ago, there was very much rules, and the God of the Old Testament is a little bit harsh. He's very judgmental, and then the introduction of the New Testament, the idea of a benevolent God, and the idea that we hit a developmental stage where a new possibility became available, and this is still part of the evolution, living into more of a being and evolving into this initially concept that love can sort of carry the day from a gender orientation. I see it as, personally, I see us at a moment in time where a lot of gender roles are insufficient, right? So the world has shifted, and I'm my sense that there's a new paradigm.
This is the simpler version, Alison.
Yeah, it wasn't simpler, was it? But, so save me, because I know a lot.
What is up with women? Help us out.
What is up with evolving beyond some of the small story roles that we fall into that are gender related from an old paradigm?
Yeah, I love it. It's great. And paradigm is one of my favorite things to engage in, and shifting paradigms, creating paradigms, recognizing there's no such thing as the perfect paradigm. All paradigms allow for certain things and disallow for other things, and really, the name of our workshop, Celebrating Men, Satisfying Women, is it's the name of a paradigm that we've invented and discovered at the same time, and are exploring and figuring out how to do it, and it's the shift from what we would call an adversarial relationship between men and women to partnership. And it's one of the possibilities that has opened up out of, you could call it, oh boy, there's all kinds of names for it. Feminism would be a misnomer, right? Because no woman is more feminine as a result of feminism.
Right, of course.
But you could call it equality if you wanted to. But
yeah, that's going to get slippery too.
Yeah, so I would say the
I think
shift in dependency. Wherever you have dependency, you're going to have an adversarial relationship, because it's whenever there's dependency, there's a power struggle, and there's a limited amount of power, and people fighting over who has it, and then whoever has the power can get everything they need from the people who don't have the power, and that's a very long history of men and women has existed in this dependent and adversarial relationship and paradigm, and it is the paradigm of human animal, that term that you used earlier, Barnett. And what's possible out of the perception, at least, that women have that they're no longer dependent upon men for their survival, it's now possible for us to partner.
Yeah, the partnership paradigm, that's what's coming to my mind. Putting down the power struggle and the positioning. I mean, at one point in time, going back to this developmental perspective, the roles were narrowly held, and they worked until they didn't. And the beauty of the whole thing coming apart, which is what a lot of us see, is that now something new can emerge. And what's emerging, and I'm naming it the partnership paradigm. I don't know if that's a good name or not, but for right now, that works, at least in my life.
Cool. I mean, it's one of my highest values. It's what my whole life is about. So.
Yeah. Barnett?
Yes?
We just woke him up. He's getting a little older. He dozes off periodically.
Yeah. Well,
hello? I used to have a therapist like that.
Let's put it in a way that Barnett will come play with. Okay?
Please.
If you look at, so you could think of it in terms of physics, which I know almost nothing about physics, like less than nothing about physics, except for this one thing about quantum physics that when I heard it, I got so excited. And it's the concept of particle and wave, and the existence, existing as a particle, and then the transformation or transmutation of the existence as wave. So you could think of it as the existence as individual and then the existence as partnership. The existence as individual and the existence as community. And that there's this thing that can happen where, where 1 + 1 equals way more than 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But that happens in waves. But one of the things that I am paying attention to is how do you have to honor yourself as an individual in order to participate in wave rather than get lost in adapting and sacrificing yourself.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
That is beautiful.
And that's one of the things that we've seen in partnership, and I love the word partnership because the first part of the word partnership is part. So I'm always paying attention to what's your part. What is your part? So that particle is in amazing shape to have this possibility to participate in wave and be part of a wave where the essence of that particle is expanded rather than disappears.
We're so in there.
That is so beautiful. You said honor yourself as an individual. Oh, we
Break.
have to break. I'm
Break
getting
sign.
one of those.
But you
things
can set up.
that looks like a broken stick, but it's not really. That says
You can
that we
set
have.
up the next segment.
I'm going to set up that we
Yeah.
have to step away now and sell like mufflers and
When we get back.
and
I call
3-hour
this
paint jobs.
mufflers.
Yeah.
I've
So
always wanted to sell mufflers.
are you in
Well,
luck?
you're-
Well, we're going to have you
you're
in to
help-
do a
helping us
special
with that.
muffler spot.
Sale.
We're going to step away. We're going to pay a couple of bills. We will be back after these messages with Alison Armstrong, and please stay with us.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnet Bain and our amazing guest, Alison Armstrong. Before the break, Barnet, you were all ready to go.
I was all fired up. Allison said something about honoring ourselves as individuals, and when I think about honoring to me has something to do with the willingness to be changed by virtue of my experience of the other. So that when I honor myself, I'm willing to be changed by what I see there, what I respect there. And that is very much in keeping with what it takes to grow as an individual and to integrate the various parts of myself that are feminine energy, that I have been at war with for 6 billion years of my love affair with the straight line.
Individually and collectively.
Same thing.
I know. Just offering that.
And as well as honoring the masculine energy, I don't know anybody who is 100% male in exactly the same way as the next guy, nor do I know anyone who's 100% female in exactly the same way as the next woman, but I do know lots and lots of people who have both masculine and feminine energies in different ratios that we are working to integrate, so that I know in my own life, so that I can express will and action cleanly without annihilating others or being hierarchical, and at the same time that I can be open to imagining and feeling and creating connection and community. And this is a dance of honoring. So I thank you, Alison, for pointing out that it begins with the self.
And the self as parts. I like this piece, too. I'm just going to throw one more little thread in, that I recognize myself as a part. So one of the things, you said the word individual, which is where I trip a little bit. It's fine that I'm an individual, but really I see myself as part of something bigger than myself. And I understand that that's the greater aspiration, at least from my perspective, that I'm only part. I'm part of something bigger. And that is where I feel my experience elevates.
Well, there's the masculine speaking.
Is that my masculine speaking? I don't know.
Slice and dice it.
No, I think it's, well, okay.
What do you think, Alison?
Help us out. Save us from ourselves.
Save you from yourself. Well, I love what Barnet was talking about, there's very few individuals you would ever find 100% masculine and 100% feminine. almost, I've never met them either. So I think it's pretty fair to say we all exist on a continuum. And one of the things I've been paying attention to for the last 20 years is what is that continuum, and what are the ways of being that show up, and the ways of thinking, and the relationship that you have to speaking and listening, for example, depending on where you are on that continuum. Mm-hmm. And I'm not real big on the word individual either. I think in our culture we put so much emphasis on the individual, and we assign cause to the individual. I'm like this because my father abandoned us, or I'm a type A personality and that's why I do everything. And I think we miss a lot that could be discovered if you look at us first, what are the characteristics of a human being, and then what are the characteristics that are given by what I would call a testosterone-based organism and an estrogen-based organism, mm-hmm. because those hormones literally create structures in our brain, and which create the way that we think and the way that we respond. And it's been fascinating to me because I'm a post-menopausal woman, so that means my estrogen levels are falling all the time, and I've gone from the diffuse awareness, which is the estrogen brain, the consciousness of the estrogen brain is just poured in every direction, and that's why the socks on the floor drive us crazy, because they're talking to us, literally. Saying,
specifically Barnett's. Those are really frustrating socks.
Yes, what am I doing here? I'm moving along the spectrum of becoming more and more focused. And my daughter, I had to talk to my daughter. Her feelings were getting hurt because she thought I was ignoring her. And this happens to women a lot. We feel that men are ignoring us until we find out there's this thing called single focus. And when you're focused, your brain is magnificent, and it will screen out everything it is decided is irrelevant to the result you're focused on. And so as I'm moving from this diffuse, aware of everything consciousness towards this very focused, selective, committed consciousness, it's really quite interesting. And my husband is going in the opposite direction. As his testosterone levels are falling, he's becoming more diffuse and less focused. And if we didn't appreciate that spectrum, we'd be in deep trouble, because I think the masculine and feminine, I hesitate to use the word design, but it begs design, the word design. It's the possibilities of how elegantly we can partner with each other, how much we're meant to have each other's back and see what the other can't see, see into each other's blind spots and see and think things that the other person can't see or think. If we knew that in our partnerships between the genders and celebrated how much you can contribute to me and I can contribute to you, instead of you're wrong because you're not like me. Yeah. You're wrong because you don't act like me. You don't think like me. You didn't do what I would have done. Damn it. So I mean, it goes back to what you were bringing up at the beginning, Freeman, about love and about the nun. She honored them. She honored those young men by loving them.
Yeah, she met them right where they're at.
Yeah, and we dishonor our young men all the time because we expect them to act like young women.
Yeah. There's another thread, too, because, I wonder, as I'm very curious about the evolution of consciousness and what happens to tendencies. So I love what you're talking about, how the estrogen levels decreasing cause certain traits to become more pronounced, and certain, and you can see this, and it's a beautiful perspective. I wonder, because we've had Bruce Lipton on the show, for example, I'm sure you're familiar with his work, and others, where I wonder if, and this sort of harkens back to the wave and particle part of the conversation, because the wave collapses into a particle based on an expectation or a belief, right? And these are pattern tendencies. All of these wonderful neuroscientists, including Andy Newberg and others we've had on this show, who will point to the patterning, where there's a patterning where things collapse into form based on expectation, based on habit, and even based, perhaps, one of the explanations is the biology that, however many years of human history, this is how, we learn to survive and adapt and get by. But that there's this shift in possibility, that the idea that quantum physics has sparked in our imagination is there's something beyond what we've been, where the possibility is bigger than the tendency. Do you track where I'm going?
Great.
So that
Possibility
becomes
is bigger than the tendency. I'm totally with you on that, and that's, I think, probably what excites me the most in my work is getting to work with people who that's what they're putting their energy towards. Like, I'm not interested in the tendency. I'm not going to justify my tendencies.
Right, but the explanation's helpful. So look,
yes.
The explanation where you go, okay, I get it. Estrogen dropping. Here's why focus is increasing. Oh, estrogen higher. It makes sense. There's some biology behind it. All that's fantastic. And yet, in a moment, we're bound by it. So it's okay. It's fantastic to know it, but it would be... but we don't want to get bound by it, where
Right.
all of a sudden we've crunched everything into an explanation, and then, okay, good, that's our story, we're stuck with it. And so there's this weird paradox, and we love paradox in this show, where, it's so cool to have an explanation, know it, and then can we let go of our explanation in favor of something yet unknown? Who knows? And that's where we like to go. Like, we like to go to the edge of possibility and go, all right, that's cool, we've known all this. What's on the other side of that?
Well, or one way we've dealt with this, and Barnet knows this, is we would call it instinct plus choice.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of trying to overcome the biological foundation, what if we understood them and then harnessed them?
Brilliant.
With conscious choices. So for example, the feminine tendency, that is a really good word, is to gather, right? So when a woman gets scared, she's going to go gather. She's like collecting berries for winter. And if you know that, you're going to have this instinctive reaction to fear where you're just going to go out and buy stuff. If you know that, then you have a moment where you can catch it and choose something that's going to end up empowering instead of making you broke.
That's fantastic.
I mean, that's a really basic conversation I was having with my daughter last night. But it's really exciting. Like, protect is one of the strongest instincts we're dealing with all the time. Human animals are always protecting something. Well, instead of trying to be, okay, I'm not going to be about protection anymore, what if you upgraded what you were protecting? What if you're protecting possibility?
What if you were always pregnant with possibility?
Yes.
As an artist, as a creator, I understand that every act of creation is sourced, is received as a gift and held in an energy that is feminine. It's the masculine doing, engineering, drafting, building that fills the space. The space is feminine. And so all innovation is received as a gift, and if you're really aligned as an artist, then you are in a perpetual state of being in love with what is as yet unborn through you. I want to just thread something back for a second. You were referring to the tendency of maybe some women who are triggered to by a particular event, and now they're out gathering berries, which is so beautiful. And I'm curious, is that an expression of a particular? I know you do work with archetypes, and is that would that be the response of a particular feminine archetype? I doubt that the Empress archetype would be collecting berries, but she would be holding the world in which the maiden would go and collect berries.
I don't think I can answer that without talking about the way that I see the archetypes. I haven't engaged in the maiden and the empress. I took a bunch of characteristics that men told me they responded to in a particular way, and then that's how they got grouped. They got grouped by the way people respond to them, and I call them the temptress, the mother, and the queen.
Say more about that. I know our listeners are leaning in. If you're driving, don't lean in too close.
Don't hit the horn, but get closer.
But please say more about that.
Well, the temptress are the qualities of playfulness and physicality and sensuality and sexuality, and how people respond to them is it has them want to participate. It causes spontaneous affection, physical affection, and it makes other people feel desirable, makes other people feel wanted, and it's a challenge for many women because we generally have a weak relationship to the physical. We have a very strong relationship to the spiritual, and that's easy for us. But being in our bodies, embodiment, is an enormous challenge for women. We just abandon our bodies and then dress them and drag them around. And which is why a woman with really, if she has sourceful temptress energy, right? So if her temptress is sourced from her queen, from her spiritual aspect, then it's just gorgeously, amazingly delightful. If her temptress energy is sourced from survival, then it's terrifying,
manipulative, and frightening.
Exactly. The mother's what we would call the emotional aspect. It's the nurturer. She focuses on individuals. So mothers have trouble. They don't have a big picture. They just see individuals and they respond to individual need, and they'll meddle and try to get everybody organized around fulfilling somebody's need. And she can very much get in survival. I mean, that's the one. All these aspects have both a human animal and a human spirit expression. But the mother's going to go out and gather. She's going to go collect everything that could be needed, and often in a kind of panic. And I mean, it will be in a kind of panic or compulsiveness, and really, we would call the word enough. Enough is the boundary between human animal and human spirit, and if we're going to get a grip on our go out and gather everything or go out and hunt and kill everything, we got to deal with enough. And but the mother adapts.
That's a whole show right there, by the way.
That's 3 shows.
You will be back for that. I'm making note now.
Show.
The Enough Show.
The Enough Show.
We see some systemic imbalances there. Go on.
Oh my gosh, enough is such an amazing concept, and the queen is really, I would call it the accountable feminine. Accountability is naturally masculine, but the accountable feminine is being accountable for spaces. I love that word. She's accountable for what we would call unoccupied space. She creates through the creation of literally like gardens, like the soil that things can pop up out of, and she holds an unoccupied space, and things can arise within that space, and every woman has an ability, has an innate ability to create particular unoccupied spaces. And one of the things we work on in our Queen Workshop is articulating what are those spaces that you actually want to be accountable for holding in life and for other people. And partnership is one of those spaces that I'm all about generating. Truth and honor are also freedom. Those are the spaces. That's what I would say. I'm the queen of. I'm holding the space of that and accountable for generating that.
That's beautiful. So the unfortunate part about this, because I have so many things that I'd love to jump in with, is that we've run out of time. But here's the good news. We can get you back, and you can come in studio and collect your cup.
I'm going to bring that cup, but by that time we'll have
something else.
some other fantastic,
some
fantastic. We used to have like T-shirt sleeves, just the sleeves.
That's all we could afford.
I'm very grateful, Alison. I love you, and you're a dear friend, and I'm so thrilled that you joined us here this morning.
All right, before we let you go, let's give folks a way to find you in the world, namely a website.
Yeah, your phone number.
My phone number. Well, they can go to AlisonArmstrong.com or they can go to UnderstandMen.com.
Perfect. And all of this will be available on
our
the Cutting
website.
Edge Consciousness website. And thank you, Alison, for this beautiful time together. For those of you listening, I invite you to stay tuned because we're
going to talk about Alison
to wrap it up after these messages.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And we are back on Cutting Edge Consciousness. This is Barnett.
We
made it back. Barnett here with Freeman, and I am leaning into my mic. We got to work this out, this whole mic thing here.
Yeah, you've been with your mic for 3 years.
I like to keep our audience in touch with all of the studio challenges. That's probably because you're on my mic.
Oh, that's right. We switched. Well, every once in a while it's good to switch it up.
Shouldn't that mic be over here and this one be over there? Isn't it really how it would work?
Any way you slice it, it comes up peanuts. Hey, loved Alison
What did you
Armstrong.
love about it? No, I'm serious. I'm not being. What did you learn?
Gosh, so much. So we can hearken back again to other conversations. One of them is the recent conversation with Jean Houston, when she said, instead of pathologizing, can you mythologize? Can you see this, from a perspective that at once makes it more universal and simultaneously more personal, which is a bit of a paradox, but in the context of archetypes, we go, wow. So it feels like such a clear mirror to see my own experience, and then I recognize it's universal, it's a collective. And that's what Alison was pointing out.
I'm not sure I completely, say a little more. I'm not totally following you.
Okay, so there's 2 ways to crunch this. One way is the thread that's sort of expansive, where we see throughout time and throughout stories, the story of us, the mythologies, the ways that these roles, the archetypes, the queen, or the temptress or whatever, how it threads through in the stories in the myth of our experience. And then we see personally our own patterns with the threads of energy that are being expressed in day-to-day life and in our experience. So that way of understanding things, my sense is that shows up as a kind of a relief, because there's this thing that is sometimes called the alien complex, where we're caught in something that we think only we feel it. And then we start to realize that this isn't something that's just my experience, that this is actually reflective of a very common experience. We go, oh, so I'm not an alien. And I feel part of something sort of bigger than myself, and I understand myself in this reflection.
I must be an alien today because I'm not tracking any of this. I'm not following you. The reason that I'm not following you is because I'm not sure whether you're talking about gender relations.
I might be, because you can see it along gender lines.
Just give me the context, and then it'll all drop in.
Well, you can see it along gender lines. That's what she was talking about. So the queen and the temptress are 2 archetypes that represent various characteristics, behaviors. The mother, and how the mother goes to certain behaviors that, when they're imbalanced, become less than helpful. Then there's from the place of the scarcity or survival, there's this over collecting, over meddling, smothering. But from the place of the integrated archetype, it's a very helpful protection mechanism.
I get it now.
Yeah. So look, when the behavior, when we're in a fight with our own sort of instinctual behaviors, or these ways that we see things playing out in our life as imbalances, and we go, what's going on here? And it feels like it's us and we're alone, and why do we do this? And there's something wrong with us. And then we see it in this broader context, and we go,
how does that free us?
I'm sorry?
Why would that free us? I mean, what I'm hearing is that you're referring to the part of me, I'll speak personally, my own experience, that has judgments about and stories about what I am experiencing, primarily feeling, and pushes back on it. And those feelings are feminine. So there is a institutionalized chauvinism that has made it very challenging for men and women alike, that has elevated logic and reasoning and thinking over undoing, over imagining and feeling, and it has made imagining and feeling, listen to even the language, intellectually dubious, as though the ultimate litmus of anything human is its ability to fall into a intellectual context. So the feminine energy is a womb that holds the boundary of all possibility and is infinite. And inside of that is the ability to engineer and to create stuff and build things, and it's all beautiful. It's beautiful when they are working together. But we've had many years of this
systemic imbalance.
I think I can talk about it in terms of the culture, but that does not free me. It's much more powerful when I own it in myself. When I see it in myself, my comfort zone around over-speaking things, and for a guy who's on the radio, this is very much a part of what I deal with all the time.
And overthinking things, because
and
again, that's a big trip card.
I don't want to judge that, though. That's the deal.
So
it is what is the feelings that go along with that, and can I be okay with them? Can I be large enough to feel all of the beautiful, beautiful, powerful feelings, as well as the feelings that come up to which that feel uncomfortable or feel awkward or feel constricted, and to which I attach meanings. Thoughts and feelings are connected. You pull on a thought, tug on a thought, and a feeling will come up, and vice versa. So I think that the masculine-feminine conversation in the big picture is really one of integrating not gender issues, but the masculine energies in each of us.
I agree.
With the feminine energies in each of us.
Totally.
And then from the inside out, I spoke to you earlier about an acquaintance of ours, and I had the pleasure of being in a room with him, and there is not this sort of stress. This is not this sort of push, pull. There is. You use the word presence, and I think he would use the word presence as well.
Yeah.
So he's very much alive in the world, and very much open to the experiencing of whatever comes through him emotionally and feeling, and what his thoughts are. But they move through. He's not overly identified with them. That is. That was a powerful experience for me to witness.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to track back for a moment just because I feel like I want to cover it. The systemic imbalances, the myth or the mythology, in my mind, represents a way of rebalancing, right? Look, we can go too far with it, okay, but I'm not talking about that. I see value in seeing the myth and the various archetypes and the way that Alison was explaining it, in my mind, is really brilliant. That we can see I was mentioning a moment ago, the imbalanced mothering archetype and the way that plays out as a protection mechanism. And then the queen that can hold the complexities, which I think is what you're talking about. The presencing is a way of being in the world that has, if I use this language, a lot of king or queen energy, has the ability
It's
to hold
a
it all.
connection to the feminine energy that is the void. It is a relationship to the one experience of it is the silence, into which arises all things.
Yeah.
But we get very uncomfortable with silences. We like to fill them.
You and I do. On radio, that's a good thing.
On radio, it's a very good thing. Let's see how far we get with silence on the radio. They'll take away our new leather cups.
With the pleather.
Our pleather cups.
Yeah. Don't elevate them to leather. We're not there yet. We still haven't got parking spots, Barnett.
Our pleather cups.
Oh, man.
So this exploration of feminine energy and the integration of it, the ability for men who have been socialized in a particular way to show up in a particular way, to play out certain kinds of socially acceptable archetypal energies, mostly that have to do with the disintegrated idea of warrior and competition. To moderate that, not by trying to curb it, but loving it, holding it with enough love as your friend, the nun that you spoke
Sister
about
Pat.
earlier, Sister Pat, who is able to be so expansive,
Totally.
that she can hold a space for others who are pretty disintegrated, and they don't feel judged, and they don't feel. That's not a guarantee that they're not going to act out or misbehave.
No.
She's not.
But
she's not looking to fix them.
Well, it's a very empowered response to it. I mean, she's able to hold it. She has a certain consciousness or capacity wherein she can hold it. She's got a way of, there's a context, a bigger context. She represents a bigger space.
And the feminine energy, the goddess energy, which we have a sense that is now returning. It's never left. It has always been so powerful, so unspeakably formidable, that it was able to hold the space for all of the rejection, for all of the frankly, the war on the feminine, the war on feelings, the war on emotions. I remember growing up when...
The war on not knowing, the war on the space.
The war on being uncertain, the war on allowing miracles to bubble up, the war on everything except that which could be quantified into what my dad used to call facts. Facts are facts.
Right.
Son, facts are facts.
Yeah.
And that was very much appropriate to those times.
Yeah.
How remarkable, how amazing, how quickly the years have just flown by. In Canada, they call it the hockey stick. You know what a hockey stick looks like. So it goes along in a straight line. Then it's not even a learning curve. It's a vertical.
Yep.
So in the past 30, 40 years, we live in a different
30
world.
or 40 months.
30, 40 months.
Yeah, it's a fast curve. The topping out of the system where, enough facts, son, fall apart, from world is flat. Okay, it's not flat anymore. What happened to that fact? Because we organized all our choices around that. Okay, so a lot of these facts are getting a little shaky because
it causes us to drop into a level of humility, even though the facts have always been one way. In the very next second, they could be different.
Totally.
Or it causes us to double down, and dig in and go fundamental, and say, let me just return to a time when it felt like the world was secure, when it felt like there was such a thing as absolutes and guarantees and insurances. So let's see if we can go back to 5 administrations back or 500 years back.
Let's do 1950s. It ain't going to work. I mean, people can try. It's fine. But for you and I, that's not a generous opportunity.
It depends on what day it is.
Right. Some days. I'll take some
days my heels are dug in.
Yeah. And that's okay, too, because that's all part of the sort of growth process. We collapse things into particles so that we can feel safer and feel like we're in control. And then our consciousness lifts and we begin to, or elevates, and we begin to allow the particles to break up into waves and possibilities begin popping all over the place. that couldn't exist before because we were holding so tightly to our conclusions and our worldview. So, I mean, that's a part of the conversation we're having, you know, that the whole partnership language of a paradigm of partnership. This is my whole thing around collaboration. Is I'm so fired up about collaboration as an operating system because competing for me in my personal life has topped out. I can't keep competing. I can't keep creating us and them. Personally, in my own marriage, I can say that, you know, Jazz and I are so in the partnership right now, and it just feels phenomenal. And partnering and sharing and caring in this moment in time in my life is everything. That's what I was doing in prison last night, was I wanted to be in the space with Sister Pat of, in the elevated space of that presence. And I am feeling quite tutored by her. I mean, she's modeling it. You know, I'm watching her just, you know, it's not linear. She's not tracking in the way that I track. You know, she's not trying to figure it out in her head. She's just there. And the way she put it together at the end with both of these boys in the prayer just blew me away. It blew me away. I didn't know, you know, I'm coming at it from a different vantage point. So I love that modeling. For me, that's creating all kinds of waves of possibility that I can get pretty fired up and excited about.
I'm trying out silence on the radio. I just want to see what is it like.
Well, we're going to go silent in a minute here.
Have the void on the radio and see what bubbles up.
That is funny. Don't try too hard, or
don't
we'll
try
lose.
this. Don't try this.
We will not
home,
only
folks.
never get those parking spots,
Exactly.
they're going to take away your plethora cup.
My plethora cup. Don't try this at home, folks.
But we have, in fact, come to the end of our time. So, you know, with that, I'm going to say that this has been another fun experience at the edge of possibility, playing around.
We hope that you will join us again here, same place, and wherever that place is for you. I know we're on more and more platforms, we're thrilled to say. We hope that you'll join us next time. And until then, this is Barnet and Freeman, and have a great week.